Welcome to Mei Mei. Here's a little bit about who we are. We were founded in 2012 and we are a sibling founded food truck, catering business, and restaurant serving up creative Chinese American cuisine that is locally sourced with sustainable ingredients and made with love. We pride ourselves on serving pasture raised meat, produce from small farms, and some of the most creatively delicious food out there. Mei Mei was started by the Lee family, and it was Big Brother Andy's idea, who had a lifelong career in hospitality. But he didn't know that much about cooking, so he recruited his middle sister Mei and younger sister Irene to join the business when they first started the food truck. Irene and Mei said, "Sure, we'll join, but how about you name the business after us?" And thus, that is how Mei Mei got its name. Mei Mei means little sister in Chinese. So it's Big Brother Andy and his two Mei Meis that started the business. The Lee family also has a background in the restaurant industry. Their grandparents also owned restaurants in New York. So the joke is that their grandparents had immigrated from China to work in restaurants and in the hospitality industry so that their children could all become doctors and lawyers, etc., which they all did, so then that their children could then go back to working in the restaurant industry. So that's a little bit about the Lee family immigrant history. So here at Mei Mei, we have three core focuses. One is a better place to work, a better way to source, and a better hospitality experience for our guests. And I'll go into each of these. So, why we need a better place to work? The restaurant industry and restaurant business is hard. Here's some facts that you might not have known. At an independent restaurant, 6% is the average restaurant profit margin. So that means for every $100 of sales the business makes, you get $6 in profit. And then 10% is a good benchmark for a healthy restaurant business. So that would mean for every $100 in sales, the business makes $10 in profit. Here we have a pie chart that breaks down a healthy restaurant business cost breakdown. So in one category, you can think of it in thirds. We'll start over here with the green. 30% of your cost should be the ingredients, or what's referred to as COGS, cost of goods sold. 30% should be direct labor. These are the people making and selling your food. 30% should be overheads. In this category is everything else that's not food and labor. So this could include your rent, utilities, things like toilet paper, the air conditioning bill, things that you might not think of that go into the actual food and making of the food. And lastly, you're left with a 10% profit margin at the end. So this is what we're striving towards. So why we need a better place to work? Low profit margins contribute to low wages for restaurant workers. In Massachusetts, currently the minimum wage as of January 1st, 2019 is $12 per hour. And then there's a tipped workers rate, which is $4.35 per hour. This means that for roles where you take tips at Mei Mei, this would be the front of house, you have a base rate that is lower than minimum wage, and then the rest of your hourly rate gets made up in a tipped rate. At Mei Mei in 2019, our base starts at $5, and then the average tip pool, which is tipped over 2 weeks at a time, is between $12 to $14. Now, minimum wage is expected to increase by $1 every year until it reaches 15. So, for example, in 2022, the minimum wage will be $15 per hour. The tipped rate is also going up by a dollar every year. So when that reaches 15, it'll be $7.35, and the tipped rate will continue to increase $1 every year until it reaches 15, or Massachusetts has a different law change. We also like to use this benchmark, the Massachusetts Living Wage Calculator, which is a calculator created by MIT that currently says that $14.70 is the hourly rate for a livable wage for one single adult living in Boston as of January 1st, 2019. So at Mei Mei, our goal is to ensure that our staff are making at least $14.70 per hour. We're not there yet with all roles, but overall, that is our goal to strive towards. A little bit more about why we need a better place to work. The restaurant industry makes up the majority of minimum wage jobs in the US. So by doing better at our restaurant, hopefully we influence others to do better in return. And so we have the potential to make an impact on a very big industry. Over here, 45% all minimum wage in the food preparation and serving industry. Also, gender and minority representation is lacking amongst top industry influence in the restaurant industry. The James Beard Awards are kind of like the Oscars of the chef world. And in 2016, Irene, one of our co founders and owner, was one of the 31 women of color nominated for a James Beard Award, while the majority are white men. In coming years, this stat has increased. There's a lot more minorities and women getting nominated for this very prestigious award, but overall, more of the big influencers in this industry are predominantly white and male. So we recognize there's a lot of problems in this industry and we want to do better. Our mission is to influence and change the restaurant industry and food system for the better. And so, what are we doing? Here at Mei Mei, we have a program called focusing on our employees called Open Book Management. So, what is Open Book Management? We refer to it a lot of times as OBM. Well, we're on a mission at Mei Mei to provide better restaurant industry jobs, better job training. So in 2017, we launched a program called Open Book Management, and it's a philosophy and management strategy of involving every employee in making a company more successful. We train all of our staff to think and act like managers, regardless of their role or title. So what does this look like at Mei Mei? So we train all staff in basic business and finance, and all staff participate in a paid training curriculum taught over 2 to 3 months, both in person and online, to learn the basics of how to operate a restaurant and read a profit and loss statement, which basically shows how much money Mei Mei made or lost over a period of time. Next up, we have all staff monthly meetings to review our financial performance. All staff get to see the business, how the business is performing, and strategize ways we can improve. Company improvement challenges games is another activity we host. You get in teams of 3 to 5 people, and we usually have some area of the business that we're trying to focus on over an 8 to 10 week period. And in the past, we've done things like increase our alcohol sales, increase our Yelp star count, increase revenue, decrease cost of goods, which is cost of goods sold. So there's different aspects of the business that all staff have the opportunity to work on and improve as well as learn about. At Mei Mei, we also have a profit sharing program. The Mei Mei leadership team sets an annual profit target, and if Mei Mei exceeds the profit target, distributions are made quarterly based on hours worked to eligible staff. The requirement is you must have completed the open book curriculum, which you will start about 3 months after starting with the business. We also do leadership training. Every 6 to 8 weeks or so, we hold a paid training session for our leadership team and interested full-time staff on different professional development topics. Past topics included how to build management skills, how to give and receive critical feedback, and how to build business systems. Lastly, this is a list of basic terms that you might hear us talk about during our monthly peer reviews. This is also in the handbook, and I encourage you before you get started on the open book curriculum to keep this sheet handy to learn some of these terms that you'll hear during those presentations. Next up, food, sustainability, and sourcing. Our sustainability and sourcing practices. We are very proud to be a certified sustainable business leader by the Sustainable Business Network of Massachusetts. One of SBN's goals is to transform the local food system so that by the year 2060, 50% of all food eaten by New Englanders is sourced from New England. Great goal. And in 2018, we won the Massachusetts Sustainable Business of the Year in the small business category. So, a better way to source and why it matters. We choose to operate our business this way because we want to support the market for local and seasonal foods. We want to reduce reliance on monoculture industrial farms, which tend to farm the same crops over and over again and take nutrients out of the soil instead of putting nutrients back in. We also want to support animal welfare. by serving only pasture-raised and humanely slaughtered meat. And we want to support better working conditions for farm workers and distributors. And a lot of that is for many of the farms that we buy meat from. We often know the farmers who are running those businesses and have a personal connection to them. Lastly, local sourcing sets us apart from other restaurants. It's challenging and something that we should be proud of. So, why do we source locally? We also want to talk about the connection that it gives us to our community. So, one thing you should consider is before you buy, consider this. If you were to spend $100 on a site like Amazon, only $1 would stay in your local community if that driver actually lived in this area. However, if you were to spend $100 at an independent local store, almost half of that would actually stay in your local community. Irene, our owner, has a friend who owns this wine shop called the Urban Grape, and she posted on their business account a good example of the impact of shopping locally and supporting your local economy. She writes here that remember, when you shop a corporate store, the proceeds go to pay the CEO, the board, and other shareholders millions of dollars. When you shop small and local, the proceeds go directly into the Braces Fund. And real talk, we need to fill that fund up fast. Here is her son pictured, who, yes, would probably need braces in the near future. So a choice for us to source locally has been to, make sure that our dollars are going back into the community that we live in. A little bit more about our sourcing. Our first priority is to buy local produce. That means produce from New England and New York at least 50% of the year. And this we measure by the dollars spent. But in actuality, we spend about 70 to 80% of our budget on local produce. But we can't always get local. Why? Seasonality is a big reason, and product quality. We have pretty strong winters, heavy winter snowfall here in New England. Not everything grows well. So our second priority is then to buy organic produce. But sometimes there are availability issues and we can't get organic from our preferred vendors. And as a third priority, we buy conventional produce. While not ideal, we do this to maintain smooth business operations and fill customer demand instead of 86ing, which is a restaurant term for running out. A little bit more about how we buy locally. We use aggregators who distribute products from multiple local farms. So while working at Mei Mei, you might see delivery drivers coming from aggregators known as Myers Produce, Farm Fresh Rhode Island, What Cheer. We also buy directly from individual farms. The two that we buy through the most in the greater Boston area is Allendale Farm and Urban Farming Institute. Lastly, we have a few traditional restaurant distributors where we get our other product. You'll see folks from Dolan Bailey as well as Baldor stopping by for deliveries. And our final pillar, guests, a better guest experience. Our guest philosophy is to turn our customers into true fans through delivering food that makes people feel good, making people feel at home at our restaurant, and influencing guest food choices for the better. A lot of our dishes contain vegetables or have meats that are mixed with veggies so that we are promoting more of a plant-based diet. So eating things that make people feel good as well as taste good. Did you notice that none of these things are great service or making customers feel special? These things for us are a given. We always like to say hospitality, which is a big part of our business at Mei Mei, starts with internal relationships. Great hospitality is through internal relationships. So, why internal relationships matter? Hospitality is not just how we treat our guests, it's how we treat each other. Great hospitality starts with great internal relationships between coworkers. What do we mean by internal hospitality? Internal hospitality is greeting each other by name, getting to know one another as people, being helpful both by doing our job and pitching in to help others when we are not busy, appreciating coworkers and frequently telling them when they do a great job, making people feel cared about and respected in all interactions. It starts with the leaders modeling this with all staff. So, in the opinion of Mei Mei coworkers, we polled people and asked traits of a great manager and coworker are being trustworthy, collaborative, supportive and kind, flexible, knowledgeable, focused, and fun. So, for your first activity, as we wrap up your onboarding, you are going to visit the Getting to Know Your Coworkers sheet where you can read short bios about all of the staff that work at Mei Mei.